Thank you for joining us today. We're excited that all of you are here. We have a couple great speakers today. I just wanted to give everyone a really quick update on what 2030 Detroit is up to. So I'm going to go through some visuals here because it always seems to help people. Some people in this group have never been to any of our meetings, so I just wanted to go over some really basic things about what we're about and then a few more events. In case you didn't know, we have 24 districts now across North America, and we have 574 million square feet committed to reducing energy and water and transportation emissions. So we are a national movement, but at very local cities. So it's really great to be able to get involved in something locally that also benefits the whole entire country, really. In case you don't know, we are working with our building owners and managers to reduce energy and internal water consumption, as well as transportation emissions from vehicles to and from their buildings. This stems from the 2030 Architecture Challenge. Ed Mesria, an architect, challenged architects a while ago to build buildings better and to renovate them better, and we still follow his suggestion of trying to reduce these metrics by 50% by 2030. Obviously, we're going to go past 2030 and are just kind of working more towards a carbon neutral environment now. But we do follow these goals for us as an entire district. And each member is at a different spot, but this is what we're trying for district-wide. In case you don't know, we have 3 member types. We have building owners and managers. It's free for them to belong, and this program is for them. We have professional stakeholders, which are businesses that support this program and want to see it continue and thrive. We have about 40 of them right now, which is awesome. And we have about 40 nonprofits that team up that sign on as community stakeholders. Currently, we are proud to say we just took a big jump because Detroit Public Schools signed on to our program. We're excited. This is the first time we're announcing we have 51 million square feet in our program. So kudos to Kendall Kuhneman, who's here. She's our program manager, and she helped with bringing on that new member. We also have best practice groups that have been going for a few years, going really well. We have a venue museum group that is really now just venues in Detroit because the museum part spun out nationally. So we have a really large museum group that gets together for best practices. And our venues are still continuing to meet, which is exciting. We have about 20 houses of worship in our program. Some of you guys are in it here, and you have been to a lot of our meetings or our pilot last year with the EPA for treasure hunts. So thank you for joining us and for joining this program. And multifamily is really starting to grow. We're excited to get this part, multifamily, headed in the right direction now that there's so much development going on in Detroit with multifamily. Last year, we did a treasure hunt with the EPA, and all of these companies on here are partners that helped run this pilot program for the EPA and for us, and it was a big success. So thank you for those of you who are on the call today that joined us in this program. Kendall is our program manager, and she's been working hard with Buildie and DTE to put together this benchmarking information platform for our members. It's free. If you are a member in our program, let us know and we'll help you customize your own platform and dashboard for you to see how you're doing with your building. Also, we've been working hard with DTE on a pilot. Many of you are involved with that. Kendall runs that, and this is where we are helping our building members transfer their data automatically from their utility bill to Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which is of course how we measure and track our reductions for energy and water. So we're excited to say that is still moving forward, and at some point we hope for this program to be available to anybody who owns a building in I guess all parts of Michigan. I just want to go over a couple events and then we'll get on to our speakers. Our next event coming up is actually in person, Thursday, May 19th. This is for contractors, architects, construction companies, lead professionals, industry professionals to come learn about the incentives that DTE has. They're making it really easy for people to apply for these incentives now. They're basically doing it for you. So we had this last year. It was really fun. You can sign up for free if you are in one of those categories that I mentioned. So we hope to see you there outdoors at Beacon Park and Lumen Restaurant. We are excited that we are having our first Detroit Energy Challenge Award Breakfast on June 14th. So tickets are not on sale yet, but they'll be available soon. We have sponsorships available. And this is also in coordination with Michigan Battle of the Buildings and City of Detroit. So we're excited to have our first awards breakfast. And if you don't know how to get involved, it's easy. You can check with Detroit, Grand Rapids, or Ann Arbor in Michigan. We have 3 districts. You could put a building into the program, become a professional stakeholder. You could sponsor programs statewide, as well as national. And you can volunteer if you want, or you could sponsor an event. So without further ado, we're going to get into our speakers. We're going to start off with Kim and Enza from Diversified Specs and Sloan, who is going to talk to us about their products and water reduction. And then Kendall is going to take questions in the chat box. So please place them in there. And when they're done, she's going to field out those questions. And then we'll hear from Adrienne after that. So thank you for listening. I'm going to stop sharing now. Okay, Enza and Kim, go ahead and take it away.
Well, thank you, Connie. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to Detroit 2030 for having us. I am Kim Jennings with Diversified Spec Sales. We are the manufacturer's rep for both Sloan and Simmons plumbing products in Michigan. I also have with me today Enza Scianna. She is our strategic account manager with Sloan. So first, we'll talk a little bit about creating a cohesive environment across both public and private spaces. So connecting the public and private space in a multifamily project, we can create a cohesive design. One of the ways to do so is to coordinate special finishes across both of those environments. As you can see here, we're showing Simmons with manual faucets in a brass finish in the units and sensor touch-free Sloan faucets and flushometers in the public spaces in a brass finish as well. A locker room or a restroom in a business center or a multi-purpose space would be an area that you could use these finishes in and bring it all together. In another example we see here on the left, also using a graphite finish and tying that space together. Here are some examples of cost-effective solutions for a house of worship public and private space. Often house of worship spaces are under a tight budget due to limited funding. So here are some ways that you can have an attractive space and stay within your budget. Here we're showing you sink solutions in the restroom with touch-free sensor faucets. Sinks can be a great way to specify easy to clean surfaces that are durable and resistant to staining. For the public areas, you can coordinate hand washing stations and sinks in the multi-purpose areas typically used in a food area or even a Bible study at a bake sale or other activities. People may need to wash their hands in these spaces for added hygiene. And as we start to change the status quo in the industry of washing our hands outside of the restroom, we'll talk more about that in upcoming slides. Enza?
Next, I'm going to move on to retrofit products, improve hygiene in any commercial restroom while saving time, water, and money. So as we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has dramatically affected and accelerated the trend towards people preferring a sensor operated commercial restroom product because there is this heightened awareness of cross contamination of surfaces in public spaces. So the areas where you can move towards a sensor product would be a flushometer, a faucet, soap dispensers, and hand dryers. So this will help improve overall hygiene, restroom cleanliness, but in addition to that, it will help conserve water and energy, as well as improve accessibility for ADA. So we're going to go into the ways that this is going to help you conserve water and energy, but there are some sensor faucets that have a flow rate as low as 0.35 gallons per minute, which can give you large water savings and achieve a 30% or more reduction in water use. So right now, if your restroom fixtures are currently manually operated, they can be upgraded to touch-free with retro kits that are available to update urinal and water closets flushometers from manual to sensor. So you can also replace faucets, soap dispensers, hand dryers with sensor operated, but we have these retro kits. So as you can see here, we have a top mount option where you can retrofit your flushometer, and it only takes 5 to 7 minutes to do so. And you can change it to a dual option to save water as well. And then we have a side mount option, which is the most popular because it just fits right over the handle that you already have on your flushometer. And it only takes 1 to 5 minutes to replace that. So these are great options. Again, these retrofits can help you save water to 30%. High efficiency products are a key element in the next generation of green restroom design. Restrooms are one of the most visited rooms in a building other than the lobby. So because of that, it's very important to not only make it aesthetically pleasing, but if you use high efficiency products, it will save money, time, as well as helping the environment. And they can contribute toward LEED or WELL credits if you're trying to achieve that type of certification. So water closets are the most water using element in a commercial building. And you have an option of using a retrofit handle that is a dual flush, and that can help you save 30% water. When the user tilts up, it will be for a lower flush volume, and it will be a 1.1 gallon per flush. So that's where you're saving that 30%. And then when you take that handle and you push it down, it gives a full volume flush of 1.6 gallons per flush. So this is a great option to save. And we also have a sensor option as well. So the way that works is off timing. If the user is detected for less than 60 seconds, the device will assume light waste and give you a lower volume of water. If a user is detected for over 60 seconds, it will assume heavy waste and give the full volume of 1.6 gallons. Here are some great examples of case studies where people have been able to switch over to the dual flush and have great water savings as well as great dollar savings as well. Target Field is considered one of the greenest ballparks in America, and they installed over 600 manual dual flushometers. And by installing these water efficient devices, they are saving $100,000 per year. A second example is the Portland Airport. They installed 330 manual dual flushometers as well as electronic dual flushometers. After the installation was complete, they saw a savings of over 30,000 gallons of water a day. So this is a great way to save water quite easily. Faucets account for more than 1 trillion gallons of water use per year across the US. Electronic faucets are a great option to save water. The average electronic faucet is around 10 seconds. Lead requires a 12-second timeout and a 0.5 gallon per minute flow control. If you are trying to contribute to lead points, lead version 4 has recently made some changes, and they eliminated the 0.25 gallon per cycle baseline for metering faucets. Now, to achieve credits, you have to specify a faucet below 0.4 gallons per minute. We did a study with Texas A&M University to see what water consumption could be by making changes with faucets. So as you can see, we have a bar here. This is the baseline. So they use existing manual faucets, and they were regulated at a 1 gallon per minute flow rate. They collected data over 2 weeks to establish this baseline. And then we moved to the second phase, where they changed the aerator on that existing faucet to 0.5 gallon per minute. And again, they collected data for 2 weeks, and they only switched out the aerator. That's all they did. They were able to save 50% when it came to changing out that aerator. So a very easy switch. And then this last one was changing to a sensor operated faucet with a 0.5 gallons per minute aerator. Again, they remeasured, collected data for 2 weeks, and had an additional 39% water savings. From the initial phase that we mentioned, that is a 70% savings in water. So just making some of these small tweaks can really dramatically improve your water savings in your facility. So now we're going to move on to something a little bit more fun and inspirational. So we're looking at hand washing beyond the restroom. So with the COVID-19 pandemic, we decided to have a brainstorm session with a global architecture and design firm on potential space modifications that can answer the public's renewed demand for hand hygiene. So we were able to take these ideas and put them across various environments, and we applied these specifically to multifamily and house of worship spaces. The first one you're seeing here is an example of a multifamily public space, so a lobby of a multifamily building. So if you think of all the surfaces you touch in a lobby, you can obviously have hand sanitizer with you, but here are some ideas of areas where you could add hand washing stations in this public space to be more convenient for the user in the space. So one example would be just inside the door. So you're seeing this person here, and we made this an ADA accessible hand washing station. So you've recently just walked through the front door, you've touched the handles. So that could be a spot where you may want to wash your hands for hand hygiene. A second spot is at the reception desk. You would have signed in or possibly touched some information screens, as well as over here near the elevators. So this would be where you're exiting or entering, and you would have, possibly been touching a lot of different surfaces. So this was one of the examples of ways that we could add hand washing in other areas to improve hand hygiene. For a house of worship, there are multifunctional spaces for a host of wide range events and programs that cater to various demographics, including marriage counseling sessions, food drives for the hungry and homeless, Bible study, weddings, and movie nights for local children. So since people are not always having the time to go to the restroom when they're in these areas, having a hand washing station in a high traffic area or transition points can be helpful. Here is a great example of a way to have a station like this in an area where there are children present and you want them to be engaged. So this, has, sing happy birthday while you wash your hands, because it takes 20 seconds to, sing happy birthday. And you could potentially use this as an area to put some kind of engaging messages, announcement screens, something that, gets children excited and wanting to participate in washing their hands and hygiene. And then lastly, We also have for House of Worship, for their multifunctional spaces, a mobile hand washing station. For a mobile hand washing station is a perfect to add at any location where hygiene is essential. So again, near those entrances and exits, the multi-purpose areas that we mentioned previously for, Bible study, bake sale, community activities. So this is a way you can add one of these stations when you don't have the budget to have construction. You're able to just purchase one of these units, and being that it's mobile, it can be moved to different areas. So if you're having an event, you can move the station to that area when it's needed. Thank you so much. Does anybody, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Does anybody have any questions? We're happy to answer anything. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kim and Enza. There were no questions in the chat, so we could just take a few minutes here. If anybody had a question, you could raise your hand and come off mute.
Yeah, I had I had two. I was just about to get into the chat. Could you give me a sense of the pros and cons about a water hand washing station versus simply sanitizers with non-water sanitizing stations? And I'm talking about not in restroom settings, but like out into lobby settings and things like that.
Sure. Sanitizer can, obviously sanitize your hands and work, but sometimes people don't prefer that. Sometimes people prefer to wash their hands and don't like, the sticky feeling. It's more of a user preference. It also can matter what you're doing in the space. So if you are potentially doing anything involving food, you're going to want to wash your hands. It really all depends on the activity that you're about to do. So in these multi-purpose areas, they could be used for so many different things. So for that reason, depending on what you're doing in the space, you may want to have that available. Anyone else? Any other questions?
That's it.
All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate you listening to us today.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah, and if you do have any questions that you're not thinking of now, we'll have more time at the end as well. So save your questions or put them in the chat.
Great. Thank you. And this is being recorded. You can always look back on our YouTube channel. We'll be sending out everyone that link. And just, obviously we can help you get in touch with Kim or Enza if you need be later. So, okay, great. We're going to move on to Adrienne from Benkari. Adrienne Bennett. We've had her speak before. We're happy to have you back. If you want to go ahead and share your screen and go ahead and get started.
Let me give it a this. Why is it doing that?
It's just thinking probably.
Okay.
Or can you go up, scroll up? Maybe you need to, there you go.
I think you're at the end of your slideshow. I think you need to go
Yeah.
to the first slide.
She's right. That's what it is.
There you
Okay. Okay. And go here. There we go. Start there. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you. And that was a fantastic presentation from Sloan. I'm glad I'm on the plumbing side and not one of your competitors. I can install all of your products. Okay, so what I'd like to talk about is how you can actually reduce your water bill with the installations that I'm going to be talking about. Now, Benkari being a plumbing company, what we would do is we would come to your house of worship. We would come to your facility where you have all your apartments or your condos, and we can make an assessment as to what needs to be done. And the way we would do that is going to be we would set up an appointment And we would have our trained auditors to come in, and we're going to assess what you currently have. There are some buildings out here that need a complete renovation, and there's some that do not. And we can do both. I'm going to show you later in the slides how we can go in and modify what you currently have, or as you just saw, you could put in new fixtures. Our trained auditors will come in. They will make an assessment of what you currently have in your space. And we will look at how we can come in and make an assessment if something needs and can be upgraded, or whether we can come in and need to replace it. If you have an older toilet that is from the 4 to a 6 gallon flush, we would strongly recommend that you would modify that to the 1.2 or the 1.3 gallon flush toilet that I heard mentioned earlier. We would then make sure we would create a detailed report, which would include a quote as to how we would show you ways to lower your water bill by either replacing what you currently have or repairing and upgrading what you have. We will state in the report all the issues that we found. Benkari is a licensed contractor. We always work to the code. We will make sure that you will have the most energy efficient product in your unit, and we will make sure that what we put in will be state of Michigan code efficient. The quote that we will provide for you will provide you a list of all the materials we're considering. We will sit down and work with you and make and let you know we can bring in specifications as to each product that we would be looking at supplying to you. We would also talk to you about the labor costs that will be involved, which all that's going to be considered in this process of reducing your water bill. Going to the next slide. And what the process consists of. When we walk through your facility, your building, we're going to be looking at if you have any leaking pipes. Next to the toilets, your leaking pipes is one of the largest culprits for running your water bill up. If you have old galvanized piping, that will need to be replaced, because what's happening, you're going to get sluggish water pressure or no water pressure at all. And you'll be wondering, why am I not getting any water pressure to my toilet, to my face bowl, to my sinks? And a lot of these old buildings that you have purchased will have old galvanized piping installed in them. We would come in and make a recommendation, depending on what you'd like, which type of piping we would replace it with. Another area we look at is leaking or replacing faucets. With that, again, all these are culprits that will raise your water bill. The faucets, we would make a modification as to, are you looking at going with a touch faucet or sensor faucet? Are you looking at going with a regular 2-handle faucet? If it's a handicap for ADA, we would work with you and identify what you need if it comes time, and if it's needed for time, for us to upgrade that particular faucet. Now, replacing a leaking toilet or a full flush toilet with, as I mentioned before, 4 to 6 gallon, 4 to 6 gallon flush. Those are mainly the ones that are running your water bill up. And if you have a toilet that's running in your facility, whether it is a Sloan, whether it is a tank type, those can and will run your water bill up. We'll also be looking at leaking water heaters or storage tanks. If those need to be replaced, sometimes you can repair them. More often than not, depending on the age of them, they will need to be replaced. A lot of places that we find now are leaking water meters. We go there and we find that the valves have corroded. You can't turn them off. We can come in and modify and replace and upgrade your entire meter assembly. We work with quite a few of the community's water departments. We have close relationships with them. We will work with them to have the water turned off by schedule, and then go in, do the repairs that need to be done. And then now your water meter has no leaks and is working properly. Replacing outside hose bibs, that's one area a lot of people forget. And if you have the older type hose bibs without the vacuum breaker on top, those can be considered as a code violation. If you are having an inspection done by the state of Michigan, they will write that up. Benkari will be able to come in and bring in an updated frost-proof hose bib and eliminate the leak, as well as making sure that the hose bib is brought up to code. This is one of the toilets that we use commonly, and it is a 1.2 gallon per flush, single flush toilet. And it is an efficient toilet, and we used this in quite a few of our residential units. Our residents have been very happy with the replacement when we come in to do this for them. It's when we come into your home, we will ask you to remove all your personal items from the area. We will then turn off the water to the current water closet, disconnect it, clean the area up, install you the new low flush toilet, energy efficient toilet, and we're in and out within 2 hours. And you will have, depending on how many, we're looking at a public restroom or just a single restroom, we can be in and out, as I said, within a 2-hour period. Here is another corporate, and it was mentioned earlier about aerators. If your faucet is working properly, we can come in and change out the aerators, which can then reduce your water consumption down to 0.5 gallons per minute. That again is a major savings on your water bill. These aerators can be found. This is this one particular unit that we use. There are other units on the market that we have used, but we find that this is a way for us to be able to come in and on a low cost, quick in and out for us to help you to lower your consumption of your water. And if you have some leaks, then that's going to be a different story. We have to maybe look at changing the faucets, changing the washers. You may have to have the whole unit replaced at that time. For your multifamily, your shower heads. A lot of people like to take long showers. Well, now that's not something we do anymore. We have to look at conserving water and saving water and lowering our water bills. This particular shower head reduces your water down to 1.5 gallons per minute. I know that a lot of people are very comfortable with something that is going to give them that full flow. You will get a full flow. You will get the pressure that you need. It's just lowering the water usage per minute. Now, what I like to talk about when we sit down with our clients, that's one thing we do, is we sit down and get you familiar to help you to understand what it is that we're offering you. We will educate you on what the devices are that are out there to help you to save water. Local municipalities, they have water rates. There are certain times of the day that the water is cheaper to use. That is something we can help you with, to sit down and identify what is the best time for you to find out when is the lowest rate for you to use your water. In multiple units, buildings, to separate the meters. If you have the opportunity to have multiple meters in your unit, now what's going to happen, that meter will just be for that particular resident. It will not be for the whole building. And we are finding that a lot of the water boards and the municipalities we're working with, they're preferring this system. Then Kari would come in and we would do a matrix of it. We would show you, and each meter will be identified to which unit it goes to. We're even having this done in commercial buildings where there are multiple tenants, either on per floor or multiple tenants, that you may have 4 tenants per floor on different levels. And we can identify each meter to which tenant that this meter is feeding. Again, I've mentioned the low flow toilets. One other thing that's being popular is the rain barrels. When you have a commercial building, your water bill is going to reflect the rain that's being placed in your parking lots and on your lawns. You're being charged to discharge and for them to convey that water into the storm sewer system. And there are things that we can help you do as far as reducing that water consumption onto the grounds of your property. The rain barrels, one, irrigation systems. One other thing too, I like to mention, we get comfortable when we're brushing our teeth by just letting the water run. That's an old habit we've had. Now we sit down and talking to you to have multiple family units. Once you have wet your toothbrush, I know this seems kind of elementary, turn the faucet off, brush your teeth, Have a glass next to you for you to rinse your mouth. Don't just get the water run, 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 run. You'll be surprised how fast that meter is moving while that water is flowing. We have to teach, we have to re-educate about how we use our water and how we're misusing our water. Again, the abuse is there. We've been content with how we've been doing things. It's a mindset, it's a paradigm change. And these are the things that Ben Curry will work with you and getting your tenants and the property owners to see. We are a qualified water conservation contractor. We will inspect and survey your systems for you, and we will guarantee you a low water bill. We've had one client that called us 2 weeks ago, and she had a 70% reduction in her water bill once we were able to go in and do the modifications that were needed to be done. My next topic I'm going to talk about is understanding water quality. This one is very important because this is something that has kind of went under the radar. We've become very comfortable with drinking our water. We assume the water is safe. We take it for granted. There are numerous ways that our water can be contaminated. And unfortunately, we found out a corporate that was happening when we had to go and shelter into our homes. COVID-19, by shutting down the buildings that we were working in, our schools, our rec centers, it caused a major problem in our drinking water. Closing down our workspaces, our office buildings, our schools, our churches, universities, all these buildings that were shut down, something was lurking and something had happened while this was occurring. Legionella is a bacteria that grows in the water. It occurs when the freshwater environments, like our lakes and streams, the low pressure causes this bacteria to grow. Here's a picture of how this happens inside our piping systems in our buildings. As plumbers, this has been brought to our attention. The water is not safe to drink after it has become stagnant. Legionella is coming as is posing a high risk, which gets into the system, and it will grow. Those buildings that were shut down, the churches that were shut down, and yes, well, the apartments were okay because people stayed in their homes. But when you went back to your place of work, those of us that have commercial buildings, we identified, once we tested the water, that this had grown in our drinking water. And you can get extremely sick behind drinking water that's been sitting stagnant for months or for years. Waterborne diseases are in the water. I wanted to show this slide because I wanted people, you've heard of this, Salmonella, Legionella, E. coli. These are corporates that we're finding in buildings in our drinking water system. We're having people that are being admitted to the hospital because they just opened the buildings back up after being shut down, not understanding and not knowing and not realizing what was happening in our drinking water system. As buildings across the U.S. reopen, occupants are being put in harm's way. Water systems are not being properly brought back online. For weeks, even months, buildings have sat empty or with low occupancy due to the COVID virus, the pandemic. Stagnant water has been sitting in your buildings, pipes, creating ideal conditions for Legionella bacteria growth. Legionella bacteria causes Legionnaire's disease, a serious pneumonia that often results in hospitalization, particularly in the same vulnerable population as COVID-19. I can't stress enough that if you have a building that has been sitting, I recommend that if people are starting to go back on vacations, we've been trained that if you go into a hotel, do not assume that their water has been flushed properly. We're recommending that because you don't know the last time that faucet was turned on. Yes, the housekeeper may have come in and cleaned it, but did they actually run the water to where the bacteria has been flushed out of the system? We're recommending that before you use the Facebook, before you use the shower, that you go in, this is to a hotel, and you actually turn that shower on, you turn that faucet on, and you flush that toilet, and you let those units run for a good 10 to 15 minutes to get what's in the system out. Yes, I'm quite sure most hotels have gone through the regimen, but we still don't know how long that water's been sitting there. And this is just a safe way for you to go in and actually help to make sure that that water has not been sitting there and something has grown in the water that you're about to use to brush your teeth. Ben Kari is working with a laboratory where we would come in, and this is our water plan. We would sit down with you and identify how this plan would work and what needs to be done to make the process complete and thorough. We are not laboratory, we are plumbers. What we will do, we'll come in, we take samples. After identifying, and this is our plan, we go through your documentation, making sure we've checked your maintenance records. We'll review your building. We'll work with the head of your facilities. We'll walk through, identify where your water heaters are, identify where your drinking fountains are, all of your faucets, your toilets, your showers, your outside hose bibs, because there are some people that will actually turn the hose bib on and will drink from it. We would take samples. We would send these samples off to the laboratories to make sure and check what levels and what is in the drinking water. And once we send the samples off to the laboratories, we will get the reports back, and we will share the reports with you. Then we would sit down after that's been identified and go over this process with you thoroughly, letting you know this is what we found, this is what needs to be done to make sure we can clear what we found in your drinking water systems. We will work with you to continue maintaining your quality of water. This is a process that should be done periodically on an annual basis. This is not something that can be done just for us coming in one time, because again, you may have an area of your building that's not being used on a regular basis. You may have a water tank, a storage tank that's just sitting there holding water. These areas need to be observed and being taken care of on a regular basis. We would come in and work with you and make sure on a periodic basis that we would be able to get your system back online. We do have a building now that was new construction that has not been able to open. And we are monitoring that water system, making sure we're flushing that system out on a regular basis so that when this building do open, the water will be safe to drink. We have set up a maintenance program with this new building. It is 8 stories tall, and this building will hold at least 500 tenants. We want to make sure that our drinking water stays safe, and these are some of the things that Ben Kari can do to help you maintain that. And my name is Adrienne Bennett with Ben Kari, and any questions?
Thank you, Adrienne. There was a question or two. Let me pull those up here. So actually this could be for any of the presenters. So I'm gonna ask a question here first. You had mentioned rain barrels, and I was curious because stormwater fees are so costly for our building members. I wanted to ask, have you done many stormwater cisterns or tanks to capture stormwater from properties that can be reused for irrigation or even for flushing toilets like gray water system?
Thank you, Kendall, for asking that question. This is a system that is becoming new technology for our plumbing industry. We are in the process of learning more about this. We are licensed plumbers. We have to go by the code. The code is in the process of getting this particular technology. We have plumbing engineers that are working on these designs, and we do have some in our plumbing code, and we are working with clients that are interested in doing some prototypes.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Before I move on to the other two questions, which may be for Adrienne or Kim and Enza. I just wanted to ask if there were any additional questions specific to Adrienne's presentation. And feel free to raise your hand or take yourself off mute. Okay, let me ask the next two questions then. This one is specifically for Sloan. Are the faucet sensors hardwired or battery powered? And if they're battery powered, how often do the batteries need to be replaced and how easy are they to replace?
Sure. So we have both options. You can order them battery powered or hardwired. And when they're battery powered, it's really all about how often it's used. So there's not really a specific rule of thumb. You'll have this for, you know, a year and then have to change the batteries. But we do have some products that can be connected to a Bluetooth, and you can pull up an app on your phone. So your facility manager could potentially pull it up and monitor each one and see when it needs the batteries being changed. Some facilities just have something on the schedule and they change it. You know, if one's not working, they change it, they change them all. But really, typically, you know, like the first sink gets used the most, more than all the rest of them in the run. So it's not, we don't really have a specific time period.
And I would like to just add to that, Enza, on some of those Bluetooth or BT faucets that Sloan offers, kind of going back to what Adrienne was talking about and stressing about that water, that stagnant water that's sitting and has been sitting. Some of Sloan's faucets in that Bluetooth capability are able to flush that line, and you can schedule through that phone app, which is a free app from Sloan, that will actually flush those faucet lines. So you don't have to run it for 10 minutes on your own. You could schedule it to flush.
And you can also, just to add on to what Kim said, also, the app also works with some of our flushometers also. So you could have it on a specific schedule that the line flush is happening in your restroom on all your fixtures. So then the Legionella, you don't have the issue with Legionella in your space.
Thank you. And then the last question that I have is, does anyone have a study or a source that addresses electric powered hand dryers versus paper towels from all angles, including sanitary, carbon footprint, life cycle cost, etc.?
So I'm not aware of one, but that doesn't mean my company doesn't have one because I'm a newer employee. So I can look into it and see if there's something that I can provide, because there's a lot of resources out there and I don't always know every single one. So I'll look into it for everybody.
Thank you. And those were all the questions that were in the chat. So at this time, feel free to raise your hand, come off mute, turn on your camera if you'd like, if there are any additional questions for our presenters today.
I think I just wanted to add one thing to that hand dryer question. So Sloan's hand dryers do come equipped with a HEPA filter. So those dryers that with that HEPA filter installed, it's giving you almost 99% cleaner air than what we're actually breathing. So
that's
Kim,
good. I often wonder myself, you know, what's actually healthier, not so much by cost, but between the dryer or the towels. Towels, I mean, you certainly have less mess without the towels, but I mean, unless landfill, unless they're going to use a specific type, I guess, of paper, but I think that's probably the healthier way to go is air dryer would be my thought, but I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I like having a towel, like in the paper towel there.
yeah, that is interesting. And actually, Kim, I wanted to ask those filters, is that something that existed? I'm sure it existed before COVID times, but do you think it's increasingly been more adopted?
I do.
Okay.
I do, and it was available prior to, and actually with Sloan, it was an option. But since COVID, Sloan said we're putting HEPA filters in all of our dryers.
Very good to know. Yeah, I was not aware.
Good.
Any other questions from anyone?
Here comes one.
Yeah. Bob, recently heard of an auto faucet without needing batteries. Any news or thoughts on that?
So I'm not familiar with an auto faucet, but on our faucets, on some of our faucets, we have an option of, in addition to your hardwired and your battery, to also have a turbine. So in the actual faucet itself, while the water is running, it makes the turbine run, and it does take power from the turbine. Or we have what we call solar power, where it's actually taking it just from the ambient light, so not necessarily the sun. So when you think of it's photovoltaic, so it'll take some of the energy from that, so that will reduce your need to change out your battery, because it won't, it'll use that power first before relying on the battery. But I'm not sure if that's the same thing as what you're referring to.
You'd have to get power from somewhere, I think.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing hand pump. But great. Well, thank you all for speaking today. It was a lot of great information. And if anybody wants to turn the camera on and say hello, we would love to see you. And make sure you register for our upcoming events. Sign up for our newsletters. Hi, Peggy. There's Peggy. Everyone knows Peggy. Peggy is an architect with Redstone, but she is the founder of 2030 District, and she is our ex officio for our chair. She's always involved, doing lots of work. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, that was my question about the batteries. So thanks for answering that. As an architect, we're very aware of that and the maintenance requirement for those.
Hi, Don. Don's
Hi,
with us.
Connie. Good to see you today. I have a quick question if you've got another minute.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one of the presenters is best to answer it. Two questions. First of all, are there typically any water pressure issues throughout the city of Detroit? And is there a recommended PSI on the user side of the meter for these faucets and water saving devices to work properly?
I can answer that one. Yes, the city of Detroit has a regulated pressure amount per residential, per commercial building. And this goes back with the design. When you are designing your building, the architect can vouch for this. They'll need to know what size pipe you're looking at using, how many fixture units you're going to be needing, and they will then determine what pressure will be required for that building. When you have a loss of pressure at the building now, that's when you have a problem with the water becoming stagnant, because you need that pressure to continue to keep that water moving. It's not stagnant, and you can then run into some trouble. Most municipalities that we deal with, and we're throughout the Tri-County area and beyond, they are really good at making sure that each commercial building, each residence has the proper pressure at their homes and in the commercial buildings and churches.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So it goes back, and a lot of us do not pay attention to it, but those fire hydrants are the reason they determine the pressure, because if there's a fire on that street or in that area and they have to turn that fire hydrant on, you're going to lose all your pressure. I don't care what if you're on that same line, that same main, you're going to lose all your pressure. And that is one, and the fire hydrants are color coded, and the color coding lets you know what the pressure is at that point.
Okay.
Thank-
Good information. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to stop recording, but we can all stay on and chat.